Hello there, and welcome back to the Sleepy Star Wars channel. I'm honored you've drifted here tonight across the quiet slipstreams of hyperspace to rest among the stars once more. Maybe your day has been long, or maybe your mind is still humming like the engines of an old freighter settling into silence. But here, in this moment, there's nothing left for you to carry. No battles to fight, no missions to finish, only breath, gentle and slow, as the galaxy opens its arms around you. Tonight, we're settling into something vast, a peaceful voyage across 25,000 years of galactic history. From the first civilizations who gazed up at newborn suns, to the rise of Jedi and Sith, to the empires, rebellions, and rediscoveries that shaped the ages. This is the entire Star Wars timeline, told softly, like a lullaby written in starlight. Let the weight of the day fall away. Feel your body sink into comfort, like a ship easing out of hyperspace into a calm, moonlit orbit. With every breath, allow the Force, gentle and timeless, to ripple through you. Quiet, steady, reassuring. Because for the next while, you don't need to think about the present at all. You're drifting far, far away into the stories, the myths, and the peaceful echoes of a galaxy older than memory itself. So settle in, traveler. Close your eyes, slow your breathing, and let the soft glow of distant stars guide you into rest. And now, as the twin suns set over ancient worlds, our journey through 100 sleepy facts about the Star Wars timeline begins. Fact 1. Before the first sunrise. In the beginning, long before names, empires, or even the Jedi, the galaxy was only a quiet swirl of stardust and forming light. It drifted slowly through the void, settling into shape the way a dream settles into memory. Worlds cooled, suns ignited, and nebulae unfurled like soft cosmic petals. In this gentle era, nothing moved with haste. Everything grew in silence, guided by currents older than time itself. These newborn stars hummed faintly, their glow touching the darkness with warmth for the first time. And from that glow came the raw potential of every story to follow. Seeds of destiny resting in the cradle of creation. Somewhere in that stillness, the Force stretched its first invisible threads, and with those threads, the journey of the galaxy quietly began, guiding us toward the next awakening. Fact 2. Stars in their infancy. As millions of years passed, the galaxy found its rhythm. Stars clustered into spirals, each one a gentle lantern flickering across the celestial sea. Some were giants, burning bright and brief. Others were small and steady, patient as the flow of time. They illuminated planets still forming, worlds wrapped in rivers of molten light and drifting ice. The silence of this age wasn't empty. It was anticipatory, like a held breath before a song. Within these stellar nurseries, the Force pulsed softly, guiding the growth of suns and the heartbeat of worlds. It whispered through cosmic dust, weaving harmony into the expanding spiral. Though no sentient life yet listened, the Force was already telling its story, one that would echo through eras of peace, war, hope, and rebirth. And soon, on distant horizons, the first civilizations would open their eyes. Fact 3. The first civilizations awaken. Eventually, scattered across the galaxy, life began to bloom. Gentle oceans shimmered beneath alien skies, and primitive cultures rose beside mountains, forests, and shimmering lakes. These early beings looked upward in wonder, sensing something grand beyond their reach. They didn't yet have words for the Force, but they felt its presence in the wind, in the tides, and in the quiet spaces between heartbeats. Some built stone observatories to track the stars. Others carved symbols into cave walls, honoring the unseen energy that guided their worlds. They were small voices in a vast galaxy, yet the Force listened to each one, embracing them with patient affection. From these humble beginnings would rise legends, empires, and orders that reshaped the stars. And in this dawning awareness, the path toward the Jedi gently stirred. Fact 4. The Force finds its first students. As life spread across the stars, a few rare beings began to notice something deeper flowing beneath existence, an invisible tide, gentle yet powerful, connecting all living things. These early sensitives didn't have teachings or traditions. They simply listened. Some felt the Force in the rustle of trees or the quiet turning of seasons. Others sensed it in dreams, where glowing shapes drifted like starlight made of thought. Over time, they learned to follow its pull, moving in harmony with currents they could not see. Their abilities were simple at first: intuition, awareness, a quiet understanding of balance. Yet these early steps became the foundation of every Jedi, every Sith, every Force tradition yet to come. And guided by these first seekers, the Force began drawing wanderers toward a distant call. Fact 5. Mystics of Jeddah and the earliest pilgrims. On the ancient moon of Jeddah, long before temples and guardians, wanderers gathered beneath pale, windswept skies. They came from distant systems, guided by visions and whispers they barely understood. The moon felt alive to them, its sands tingling with the Force, its stones warm with hidden memory. The earliest pilgrims meditated in the open desert, letting starlight settle upon them like soft snow. These mystics believed the Force was a sacred breath within the galaxy, and they devoted themselves to listening. Their practices would echo through millennia, carried by monks, scholars, and guardians who followed in their footsteps. Jeddah became a spiritual lighthouse, a place where the Force felt close enough to touch. And from that sacred stillness, a new calling began, one that traveled far beyond the moon's horizon. Fact 6. The Thoyor call across the stars. Long before the Jedi existed, immense pyramid-shaped starships known as the Thoyor drifted silently through the galaxy. They emitted a gentle, irresistible pull, not of technology, but of the Force itself. Across hundreds of worlds, those sensitive to this call felt a stirring in their hearts, a whisper promising harmony and understanding. They boarded willingly, stepping into vessels lit with soft blue light and echoing with ancient serenity. The Thoyor carried them through hyperspace without words, without explanations, as though guided by the Force's own hand. To those inside, the journey felt like a dream, calm, luminous, suspended between moments. Their destination would change the fate of the galaxy forever, the planet Tython, where the Jedi Order would soon awaken. And so, with each traveler gathered, the Force prepared for its first great awakening. Fact 7. Tython and the first gatherings of the Jedi. The Thoyor carried their passengers to a world where the Force flowed like a living river, Tython. There, mountains shimmered with morning mist, and valleys echoed with the hum of unseen energy. The newly gathered pilgrims found themselves drawn to the planet's balance, storms of light and dark swirling in harmony. They built small enclaves of stone and wood, resting beside crystalline lakes and shadowed forests. Together, they studied the dual nature of the Force, seeking harmony rather than dominance. These early seekers called themselves the Jedi, guardians of balance who listened to both calm and storm. On Tython's quiet nights, They meditated beneath constellations that felt close enough to touch. And in those meditations, the future of the Jedi and Sith began to take shape. Fact 8. Balance as a way of life. For the Jedi, the Force was not a path of light or darkness, but a circle, a delicate, ever-shifting rhythm that required understanding. They traveled between Tython's twin moons, Ashla and Bogan, to contemplate each side of the Force. On Ashla, they studied serenity, clarity, and patience. On Bogan, they faced turmoil, passion, and shadow. Only by experiencing both could they remain centered. This practice made them calm, thoughtful observers of existence. Their movements were slow, intentional, their voices soft as drifting leaves. The Jedi believed that imbalance in oneself echoed imbalance in the galaxy. And so they sought peace not by ignoring darkness, but by acknowledging it with compassion. From this ancient wisdom, the earliest philosophies of the Jedi quietly emerged. Fact 9. The splitting of philosophy. Over centuries, harmony grew difficult to maintain. Some Jedi felt drawn more strongly to the light, believing peace could be achieved only through selflessness and discipline. Others felt the power of the shadow calling to them, whispering of passion, emotion, and strength. These differences began as gentle debates, respectful, calm, like ripples in a still pond. But slowly, the ripples grew into waves. The distinction between Ashla and Bogan became more than training grounds. It became a division in belief. Tython trembled under the strain, its storms reflecting the imbalance of its people. And so, what had once been a unified order began to fracture, setting the stage for a split that would shape all galactic history. From those early tensions, the Jedi and Sith were quietly born. Fact 10. The first holocrons whisper to the future. As the Jedi refined their understanding of the Force, they began crafting holocrons, small repositories of crystal and light that stored their teachings. These early holocrons were gentle things, glowing softly like lanterns in the dark. Their voices, encoded with wisdom, spoke in calm tones, meant not for command, but for reflection. Each holocron held a fragment of the galaxy's earliest spiritual journeys, lessons on balance, meditations on harmony, and quiet warnings about leaning too far toward either extreme. When a seeker touched one, the holocron opened like a blooming star, revealing luminous pathways of knowledge. These artifacts survived generations, outlasting their creators, waiting patiently for new hands to hold them. And as they rested in ancient temples, they prepared the galaxy for the next great transition, the rise of the Jedi Order. Fact 11. The Jedi Order forms from the Jedi. Over time, the Jedi Order's delicate balance became too difficult to sustain. The storms of Tython grew violent, and the emotional pull of light and dark became clearer to its seekers. Eventually, those who sought peace and restraint broke away, forming a new philosophy, devotion to the light side of the Force. They called themselves the Jedi, protectors of clarity, guardians of peace. Leaving Tython behind, they journeyed to new worlds where the Force felt gentle and still. Their transition wasn't abrupt or angry. It was like a long exhale after years of spiritual strain. They built their first temple stone by stone, shaping quiet sanctuaries where contemplation could thrive. From these beginnings, a new way of understanding the Force emerged, one focused on harmony without the shadow's pull. And so, the galaxy welcomed its first true Jedi Knights. Fact 12. Kyber crystals choose their bearers. As the Jedi grew, they discovered worlds where kyber crystals grew deep beneath the surface, living gems that resonated with the Force like hearts made of light. When a young Jedi approached a crystal, the resonance felt like a song heard only once in a lifetime. The crystal didn't speak in words, but in feeling, a sense of recognition, acceptance, and quiet purpose. These crystals became the cores of lightsabers, transforming the Jedi's connection to the Force into radiant blades of luminous energy. But the crystals did more than power weapons. They mirrored the spirit of the one who carried them. Through them, each Jedi learned something about themselves: courage, patience, hope, and with each newly forged saber, another chapter of Jedi history began to glow across the stars. Fact 13. The early temples across distant worlds. As the Jedi Order grew, their search for peaceful places to study the Force led them across the galaxy. On planets where the energy of life flowed gently, worlds with quiet forests, shimmering valleys, or ancient stone plains, the Jedi built their first temples. These structures were not fortresses, but sanctuaries, shaped to harmonize with the land around them. Wind chimes hung in open corridors, gardens bloomed in meditation courtyards, and soft pools reflected the stars at night. Within those halls, young Jedi learned patience through silence and understanding through stillness. Their teachers spoke in calm tones, inviting their students to listen, not only to instruction, but to the hum of the living Force itself. And from these tranquil sanctuaries, the Jedi presence began to spread like dawn across the galaxy. Fact 14. Coruscant becomes a beacon of learning. Eventually, the Jedi established their grandest temple on Coruscant, a world of endless cityscape and shining spires. Though bustling and filled with noise, the Jedi chose a place where the Force pooled deeply beneath the surface, a vergence of clarity amid the planet's constant motion. The temple rose like a serene island above the metallic sea, its towers glinting with quiet dignity against the night sky. Inside, winding halls held archives older than most civilizations. Jedi from hundreds of species gathered to learn, meditate, and share insights. Even amid the hum of the city, the temple felt strangely peaceful, as if wrapped in a cocoon of stillness. Pilgrims from distant sectors traveled there seeking wisdom, comfort, or simply a moment of calm. And in this shining sanctuary, the Jedi Order solidified its role as the galaxy's gentle guardians. Fact 15. The Jedi Code takes shape. With centuries of learning came the need for guiding words, a philosophy that could keep the Jedi centered no matter how the galaxy changed. Slowly, through reflection and debate, the Jedi Code emerged. It was not a list of rigid commands, but a soft reminder to cultivate inner peace, to seek serenity over fear, knowledge over ignorance, harmony over chaos. These teachings were recited in quiet chambers, where candles flickered like tiny stars. Younglings whispered the lines as they meditated, feeling their meaning settle lightly in their hearts. The code became the foundation of Jedi life, a gentle compass pointing always toward calm, compassion, and clarity. And with this guiding light, the Jedi prepared to carry peace into an ever-growing galaxy. Fact 16. The First Night's Patrol, an unsettled galaxy. As the Jedi Order grew, the galaxy around it remained young and often turbulent. Trade lanes shifted unpredictably, civilizations rose and crumbled like tides, and distant sectors drifted without structure or guidance. Into this uncertainty stepped the first Jedi Knights, quiet wanderers who traveled from world to world, seeking not confrontation, but understanding. Their robes fluttered softly in alien winds, and their lightsabers remained mostly unlit, carried more as symbols of hope than weapons. These early knights settled disputes with calm words, healed wounds with patient empathy, and listened to the worries of those who felt forgotten by the larger galaxy. They walked slowly, purposefully, letting the Force guide their path. And through their gentle presence, the Jedi became known not as warriors, but as bringers of peace. Fact 17. A republic begins to emerge. As connections between systems strengthened, leaders from many worlds saw the potential in unity. At first, the idea was simple: partnerships for trade, shared defense, and mutual respect. But over centuries, these alliances deepened, forming the foundation of what would become the Galactic Republic. It began as a humble council of voices, meeting in circular chambers to ensure no single world stood above the rest. The Jedi, with their calm neutrality, became natural advisors to this emerging government. Their presence was soothing during heated debates, and their insights helped steer planets toward cooperation instead of conflict. Slowly, the Republic grew into a vast network of shared ideals, bound together not by force, but by belief in collective harmony. And as this new era dawned, the Jedi found their purpose expanding alongside it. Fact 18. Peacekeeping as sacred duty. With the Republic's birth came new responsibilities for the Jedi. Their role shifted from solitary wanderers to trusted peacekeepers, called upon to help settle disputes before they blossomed into war. Jedi Masters traveled with quiet dignity to troubled systems, stepping into tense negotiations like calm breezes entering stormy rooms. Rather than commanding, they listened. Rather than judging, they illuminated paths toward understanding. For the Jedi, peacekeeping was never about authority. It was a sacred duty rooted in compassion. They believed every conflict carried a human story, and every story deserved to be heard. Many worlds came to see the arrival of a Jedi starship as a sign that harmony was still possible. And in this era of gently expanding light, the foundations of galactic stability were lovingly laid. Fact 19. First conflicts that test the order. As the Jedi and Republic grew side by side, the galaxy's vastness brought challenges neither had fully prepared for. Some worlds, distant and proud, resisted joining the Republic's unified vision. Others faced internal strife that ran deeper than diplomacy could reach. When these early conflicts surfaced, the Jedi moved with caution, stepping into tense situations like healers tending to a wounded world. Their sabers remained at their sides, rarely ignited, symbols of last resort rather than first. Many of the disputes were resolved through dialogue, patience, and the quiet strength the Jedi carried within. Yet these challenges taught the Order valuable lessons: that peace was fragile, that fear could spread quickly, and that even the most well-intentioned efforts required humility. And from these early tests, the Jedi learned how to adapt to a galaxy forever in motion. Fact 20. The galaxy learns the glow of a lightsaber. As Jedi became more visible across the stars, so too did their elegant, humming lightsabers. To the citizens of the Republic, these glowing blades were more than weapons. They were symbols of hope, guardianship, and curiosity. Children on distant worlds whispered stories of Jedi walking beneath alien moons, sabers casting soft blue light across quiet landscapes. Farmers, miners, and travelers looked skyward with reverence when a Jedi vessel descended, knowing help had arrived. The lightsaber's glow became a promise that in times of uncertainty, someone would stand with steady heart, and clear purpose. Even the hum of its activation felt calming to some, like a gentle chord struck across the strings of the Force. And as these symbols spread, so too did the galaxy's trust in the Jedi Order, setting the stage for eras of both unity and upheaval. Fact 21. A schism born of passion and ambition. Yet not all who studied the Force agreed with the Jedi's path of restraint. Among the Order, a small group began to question the limitations placed upon emotion, desire, and personal strength. These individuals felt the Force calling them toward passion rather than peace, a power they believed should be embraced, not denied. Their debates with the Jedi Council grew sharper over time, like soft winds turning into restless storms. Eventually, tensions reached a breaking point. Feeling constrained and misunderstood, this group departed the Order, pursuing their own understanding of the Force's darker currents. Their path was not yet called Sith, but the seeds of that ancient shadow were planted in the rift of ideals and longing. And from this division, the first great schism began to echo through the galaxy's future. Fact 22. Jedi exiles discover Korriban. Those who left the Jedi Order in pursuit of passion and personal power wandered the galaxy like restless shadows, seeking a place where their beliefs could take root. Their journey eventually led them to a distant, brooding world called Korriban, a barren planet carved from rust-red stone and echoing with ancient whispers. The exiles felt an eerie familiarity there, as though the land itself recognized the turmoil within their hearts. On Korriban, they encountered the native Sith species, whose culture revered strength, dominance, and the raw, untamed side of the Force. The exiles were welcomed not with fear, but with reverence. Amid the planet's jagged canyons and windswept tombs, they found purpose and followers. And so, far from Jedi teachings, a new order began to form in the cradle of shadow. Fact 23. The Sith species embraced their new lords. The red-skinned Sith people lived in harsh conditions, their society shaped by trial, endurance, and ancient rituals. To them, power was not corruption, but identity, proof of will and survival. When the exiled Dark Jedi arrived, the Sith saw in them beings of extraordinary strength, touched by the Force in ways they had never witnessed. They bowed to them as leaders, teachers, and eventually, rulers. The merging of Dark Jedi philosophy with Sith traditions created something new, a culture built on passion, conquest, and unyielding ambition. Together, they forged symbols, languages, and rites that blended mysticism with raw power. Their temples rose like jagged fangs against a crimson sky, each chamber echoing with chants that stirred the Force like a storm. And in this unlikely union, the first true Sith Lords were born. Fact 24. Dark temples carved from stone and fury. As the Sith Empire took shape, its followers carved immense temples into Korriban's cliffs and deserts, shaping stone with both ancient tools and the twisting power of the dark side. These structures were built to intimidate, inspire, and immortalize the legacy of those within. Hallways spiraled downward like veins, lit by flickering red crystals and braziers that never seemed to extinguish. Within these shadowed chambers, Sith acolytes trained in secrecy, honing their strength through passion and conflict. The air itself pulsed with an uneasy energy, heavy, electric, alive. Ancient spirits were said to linger in the halls, watching, whispering, guiding the living toward ever greater power. And from these temples of stone and fury, the Sith Empire began its rise into the galaxy's unfolding destiny. Fact 25. the rule of strength, defines their path. Within the growing Sith Empire, power was not merely a goal, it was the core of existence. Their philosophy taught that the Force responded most strongly to passion, desire, and will. To the Sith, limitation was a cage, and restraint a denial of potential. Instead, they believed in embracing the full intensity of their emotions, letting them burn brightly like stars collapsing into fire. Strength determined leadership. The weak either grew or fell aside. Though harsh, this philosophy created individuals of formidable ability, beings who shaped the galaxy with their fervor and ambition. Their path diverged completely from the calm clarity of the Jedi, forming two destinies forever linked yet eternally opposed. And from the crucible of their teachings, the galaxy's great conflict between light and shadow quietly intensified. Fact 26. The rise of Sith, sorcery, and ancient spells. On Korriban and beyond, the Sith delved into mysteries few Jedi ever dared contemplate. Through ritual, meditation, and experimentation, they uncovered ancient techniques that twisted the Force into forms as dangerous as they were awe-inspiring. Sith sorcery allowed them to manipulate life, bend minds, and channel energies from long-dormant spirits. Their scrolls were filled with crimson ink and symbols older than the Republic itself. These dark arts weren't merely tools. They were expressions of the Sith belief that nothing should be beyond one's grasp. In the stillness of their temples, acolytes chanted incantations beneath flickering red light, their voices echoing through chambers carved like wounds in the stone. The Force trembled at their call, shaping itself around their will. And through these forbidden practices, the Sith carved their mark deeper into the galaxy's fate. Fact 27. The first Sith Empire expands. Empowered by their unity with the native Sith people and driven by their newly honed strength, the early Sith Empire expanded rapidly across the stars. Their fleets, dark, angular, and relentless, emerged from hyperspace like storms sweeping across quiet skies. Worlds that resisted were crushed under overwhelming power. Those that surrendered were absorbed into a growing domain of crimson banners and shadowed thrones. The Sith ruled not through harmony, but through dominance, shaping each conquered world into a reflection of their beliefs. Yet even amid conquest, there was a strange, fierce beauty to their empire, a civilization forged from fire, ambition, and the raw pulse of the dark side. And as their influence spread, it was only a matter of time before the Jedi and Sith met blade to blade for the first time. Fact 28. Lightsaber designs diverge into red and blue. As the Jedi and Sith grew into opposing forces, even their lightsabers began to reflect their philosophies. Jedi sabers, powered by naturally attuned kyber crystals, glowed in serene hues, blues like calm oceans and greens like forests breathing in the dawn. These blades symbolize protection, clarity, and the gentle guidance of the Force. But the Sith, unable to attune in harmony to living crystals, bent them through domination. Through a process known as bleeding, they poured their rage and passion into kybers, corrupting them until they burned a deep, vivid red. The result was a blade that pulsed with intensity, a reflection of the wielder's raw will. Together, these colors illuminated the first true divide in the galaxy. And with each clash of blue and red, history inched toward its first great war. Fact 29. The first Jedi Sith. Wars begin. Inevitably, the expansion of the Sith Empire brought them face to face with the Jedi Order and the still growing Republic. What began as isolated skirmishes soon blossomed into full conflict. Across starfields and ancient worlds, lightsabers hummed softly before igniting into brilliant arcs of combat. Even then, the Jedi fought reluctantly, seeking always to defend rather than destroy. The Sith, however, moved with fierce purpose, driven by ambition and the belief that destiny favored the strong. These early wars reshaped entire regions of the galaxy. Great starships drifted through battle-torn skies, and temples both light and dark fell to ruin. Yet within the chaos, the Force remained steady, a quiet witness to the turmoil unfolding across its stars. And as the echoes of war spread outward, the balance of the galaxy shifted forever toward a clash of ideals. Fact 30. Galactic memory divides into light and shadow. By the war's end, the galaxy was forever changed. Worlds that once knew only peace now carried scars, some visible, others etched quietly into the hearts of their people. Stories of the conflict wove themselves into legend, passing from generation to generation like distant thunder. Children spoke of heroic Jedi, glowing like starlight, and fearsome Sith cloaked in crimson fire. Even the Force itself seemed to hum with the memory of every triumph and loss. This division, light and shadow, hope and fear, became the foundation of all future eras. It shaped the beliefs of civilizations, the rise of empires, and the choices of countless individuals yet unborn. And somewhere in that quiet aftermath, beneath the drifting ashes of old battles, the seeds of a new age began to stir. Fact 31. A republic of thousands of worlds. As the Sith threat receded, the Galactic Republic expanded into an era of renewed hope. Thousands of star systems joined its growing network, weaving together cultures, species, and histories like threads in a luminous cosmic tapestry. From lush garden worlds to glittering city planets, every voice was offered a place within the Senate's vast circular chambers. Travel became easier through newly established hyperspace routes, carrying merchants, explorers, and diplomats across the spiral arms. For many, the Republic felt like a promise, a shared dream of cooperation that could withstand the test of time. And with the Jedi serving as calm protectors, the galaxy experienced stretches of peace that felt almost like gentle cosmic breaths. And so, the Old Republic settled into its golden rhythm, preparing for legends yet to rise. Fact 32. Hyperspace lanes become galactic lifelines. In this era, hyperspace routes blossom like invisible rivers charting the galaxy. Scouts risked treacherous journeys to map these pathways, guiding starships safely through the swirling tides of hyperspace. Once established, these lanes became the arteries of civilization, carrying goods, ideas, and people from one corner of the galaxy to another. Major routes like the Corellian Run and the Hydean Way bustled with activity, their traffic flowing in steady silence across the starry dark. Traders moved with purpose, refugees found new homes, and pilgrims journeyed to ancient temples illuminated by gentle starlight. Every lane hummed with the living force, connecting distant worlds with a sense of unity that transcended light years. And as these routes flourished, the galaxy felt smaller, more connected, as though the stars themselves were drawing closer together. Fact 33. Knights of the Old Republic. Legends take shape. During this expansive age, figures of mythic renown began to walk the galaxy. Jedi Knights, whose names would echo through time like sacred chants. These early heroes ventured into uncharted systems, restored peace to fractured worlds, and confronted remnants of Sith influence lingering like shadows in forgotten corners. Their stories traveled faster than starships, carried by grateful citizens and wandering storytellers. Some Jedi became symbols of hope, others of mystery, and a few of caution, reminders that even the brightest lights must guard their hearts against the pull of darkness. Yet each legend added depth to the tapestry of the Republic, shaping its identity with tales of courage and compassion. And among these rising heroes, new destinies began to intertwine, hinting at conflicts and revelations yet to come. Fact 34. Mandalorians rise as warriors without equal. While the Republic flourished, far beyond its shining center, a different kind of people grew into legend: the Mandalorians. Born on harsh worlds where survival demanded strength and unity, they forged a culture built on honor, resilience, and unbreakable will. Their armor, crafted with precision and pride, reflected not vanity, but heritage, a lineage carried on every plate and visor. To the galaxy, Mandalorians became figures of awe, fear, and deep respect. They were travelers, conquerors, builders, and guardians of their own fierce identity. Some walked paths of war, others walked paths of protection, yet all carried the unmistakable presence of those shaped by fire. And as their influence expanded, it was only a matter of time before their destinies intertwined with those of the Jedi. Fact 35. The Mandalorian Wars scar the stars. As tensions rose between Mandalorian clans and the Republic, conflict ignited with the force of a supernova. The Mandalorian Wars swept across entire sectors, leaving worlds blackened and hyperspace lanes choked with drifting wreckage. The Mandalorians, driven by a relentless warrior spirit, pushed deeper into Republic space, believing conquest to be their rightful path. The Jedi debated intervention, their voices echoing in quiet halls filled with uncertainty. When they finally stepped forward, the galaxy trembled beneath the clash of philosophies: Jedi restraint against Mandalorian ferocity. Both sides fought with conviction, each believing they defended what mattered most. Entire planets bore the scars of their struggle, landscapes reshaped by fire and fate. And from the ashes of this great conflict, new legends emerged, heroes whose choices would echo far beyond the war itself. Fact 36. Revan's path of light, dark, and redemption. Among the figures shaped by the Mandalorian Wars, none cast a shadow as vast, nor a light as enduring as Revan. A Jedi Knight of extraordinary insight, Revan stepped into war with a heart full of determination, seeking to protect the Republic from destruction. But the horrors of battle and the seductive clarity of power slowly pulled him toward the dark side, turning a hero into a conqueror draped in midnight. Yet Revan's story did not end in darkness. Through loss, rediscovery, and profound reflection, he found his way back to the light, carrying the weight of his past like a quiet, enduring ember. His journey reminded the galaxy that even those who fall deepest can rise again, changed but not defeated. And in the wake of Revan's path, the Force itself seemed a whisper of balance yet to come. Fact 37. The Sith triumvirate hides in the shadows. Long after the fall of Revan's empire, new shadows began to stir in the darkened corners of the galaxy. The Sith triumvirate, a secretive trio of dark side masters, emerged not as conquerors, but as phantoms. Darth Nihilus, Darth Traya, and Darth Sion moved silently through forgotten worlds, gathering followers who had lost faith in the light. Their power did not roar like an army. It whispered, subtle and consuming. Nihilus fed upon the Force itself. Sion endured through endless pain. and Traya questioned the nature of destiny with haunting clarity. Together, they sought not just victory, but the unraveling of the Jedi Order. Their presence was felt like a cold wind moving through abandoned temples, and from their quiet rise, the galaxy sensed a deeper darkness gathering strength. Fact 38. The Great Hyperspace War. Echoes. Still centuries earlier, before the Triumvirate and even before Revan's fall, the galaxy endured another cataclysm known as the Great Hyperspace War. It began with a single accident: explorers stumbling upon the Sith Empire hidden deep in the unknown. What followed was a storm of fire and ambition, an eruption of Sith fleets pouring into Republic space. Worlds burned, skies darkened, and hyperspace lanes became corridors of chaos. Though the Republic and Jedi ultimately repelled the Sith, the war left a lingering ache across the stars. Entire sectors carried memories of devastation, and ruins of once thriving cities became silent monuments to the conflict. Even generations later, historians felt the war's presence like an echo reverberating through time, a reminder that chance and destiny often shared the same path. And in those echoes, new ages of vigilance quietly began. Fact 39. Jedi serve as both diplomats and defenders. In the centuries that followed these great conflicts, the Jedi Order refined its role within the Republic. They became more than warriors. They became ambassadors of harmony, traveling with peaceful purpose to worlds struggling with fear or division. Jedi often spent months on distant planets, mediating disputes, healing old wounds, or guiding leaders toward calm understanding. When danger emerged, they defended the innocent with quiet resolve, their sabers glowing like guardians of dawn. But most of their days were spent in gentler tasks, helping rebuild villages, calming frightened communities, or teaching children about hope. Their strength lay not in battle, but in compassion. And through their patient service, the Jedi helped the galaxy breathe again, softly, steadily, like a world returning from long slumber. Fact 40. The Republic endures. Through cycles of peace and conflict. Across centuries, the Galactic Republic learned to move like a great breathing organism, expanding, healing, and evolving with each era. Some periods were filled with gentle prosperity, trade routes glowing with activity, art, and philosophy flourishing on countless worlds, and senators speaking with hopeful conviction. Other times brought storms, political tension, distant wars, and the ever-present threat of dark forces gathering in the shadows. Yet the Republic endured, carried forward by the belief that unity was worth nurturing. Through it all, the Jedi remained its quiet guardians, helping restore balance whenever cycles of uncertainty appeared. And though the galaxy changed again and again, the Republic's core dream of shared harmony continued to glow like a steady star. And from this long endurance, a new golden age was poised to rise. Fact 41. An age of expansion and optimism. With the Republic, stable and thriving, the galaxy entered a radiant chapter known as the High Republic era. It was a time when exploration blossomed and starships charted the outer rim with eagerness rather than fear. Worlds newly connected to the Republic felt the warmth of its light, joining a shared future built on trust, growth, and mutual care. Jedi of this era embodied elegant serenity. They traveled as peacekeepers, philosophers, and explorers, their robes flowing like banners of dawn against the backdrop of uncharted space. The galaxy felt open and full of promise, as if the Force itself were humming softly in approval. Hope soared, and the Republic stretched outward like a growing constellation. And from this luminous era, beacons of unity began to shine across the stars. Fact 42. Starlight Beacon shines in the outer rim, at the edge of the galaxy, where distant worlds often felt forgotten. The Republic constructed a magnificent station known as Starlight Beacon. It stood like a lighthouse crafted from brilliance itself, a tower of light reaching out into the vast frontier. Its purpose was simple yet profound: to guide travelers, support remote systems, and extend the hand of peace into regions long touched by uncertainty. Inside its halls, Jedi and Republic staff worked side by side, offering aid, knowledge, and protection. To far-flung settlers, seeing its luminous glow in the night sky felt like spotting a new sunrise. It became a symbol of hope, reminding all who looked upon it that even the deepest corners of the galaxy deserved connection and care. And beneath its warm radiance, new chapters of the High Republic quietly blossomed. Fact 43. Jedi Wanderers, known as Wayseekers. During the High Republic era, some Jedi chose to follow a gentler, more introspective path. They were called Wayseekers, knights who listened so closely to the Force that they let it determine their journeys, untethered from the structure of the Council or formal assignments. These wanderers drifted from system to system like quiet comets, helping where they were needed most. They mediated between isolated communities, guided lonely travelers through dangerous passages, and spent long nights meditating beneath alien stars. Their robes were simple, their presence calm, and their lives devoted to deep understanding rather than duty. To those who encountered them, Wayseekers felt like spiritual guardians, appearing just when guidance was needed. And in their gentle wandering, the galaxy found unexpected pockets of peace. Fact 44. Elegant lightsaber designs and Jedi fashion. The High Republic brought not only optimism, but a renewed sense of artistry to Jedi culture. Lightsabers of this era were crafted with elegance, hilts adorned with gold filigree, sweeping patterns, and gleaming inlays that reflected the refined spirit of the age. These details weren't vanity, but reverence, a celebration of harmony between Jedi and crystal, form and purpose. Jedi attire also embraced flowing fabrics and radiant whites and golds, moving gracefully with each step and each gesture. Their appearance became almost ceremonial, evoking ancient guardians from forgotten myths. Citizens who glimpsed them felt comforted, as if witnessing living embodiments of peace. And through this era's beauty, the galaxy remembered that style and serenity could coexist effortlessly in the glow of the Force. Fact 45. The Republic Fair and Celebration of Unity. At the height of its optimism, the Republic held a grand celebration known as the Republic Fair, a luminous gathering meant to showcase innovation, culture, and unity. Delegates from countless worlds arrived in colorful procession, their booths filled with art, music, and stories from across the stars. Children gazed wide-eyed at displays of new starship designs, while musicians played melodies inspired by faraway suns. The Jedi walked among the crowds as peaceful stewards, offering calm guidance and quiet smiles. For many, the fair represented the very best of the galaxy, a reminder that cooperation could build wonders greater than any one world could imagine. Its shining towers and joyful lights shimmered like a dream come to life. And beneath that glow, the galaxy briefly felt whole, connected in hope. Fact 46. The Nihil Storm Across the Stars. Beneath the High Republic's golden light, danger brewed in the farthest reaches of the Outer Rim. There, an anarchic group known as the Nihil gathered, marauders who moved through hyperspace like unpredictable storms. Led by a mysterious and ruthless figure, they use stolen paths to strike without warning, appearing where no ship should ever emerge. Their attacks were chaotic flashes in the night, leaving worlds frightened and unprepared. To the peaceful citizens of the era, the Nihil felt like a sudden shiver in a warm room, a reminder that even in times of prosperity, shadows could still creep in. Jedi sensed the disturbance like ripples in a tranquil lake, the Force murmuring caution beneath their meditations. And from these distant storms, a threat unlike any before began quietly unfolding. Fact 47. Martian Ro's shadowy ambitions. At the heart of the Nihil's chaos stood Martian Ro, a figure both enigmatic and unsettling. His calm exterior hid a storm of ambition, resentment, and secrets inherited from generations past. Martian understood the galaxy's reliance on hyperspace better than most, and he wielded that knowledge like a silent weapon. To the Nihil, he was the Eye, the one who guided their deadly strikes with eerie precision. Ro's true motivations remained veiled, known fully only to himself. Yet his actions carried a chilling purpose, as though he sought not just power, but disruption, a reshaping of the galaxy's destiny. His presence spread unease through the Force, like a cold wind slipping under a closed door. And from Marchion Ro's whispered plans, the High Republic's radiant peace began to flicker. Fact 48. Jedi valor in the face of chaos. When the Nihil's attacks intensified, the Jedi answered not with anger, but with calm, steady courage. Knights and Padawans traveled to besieged worlds, guiding evacuations, securing routes, and standing against danger with soft determination. Their lightsabers glowed through rising smoke like beacons of clarity cutting through confusion. Even in the darkest moments, the Jedi remained unwavering in compassion. They comforted frightened families, shielded the vulnerable, and worked alongside healers and engineers to restore what had been broken. Though the Nihil thrived on fear, the Jedi countered with presence, a reminder that hope could stand firm even against the wildest storm. And from the bravery of these guardians, the galaxy found a steadiness to cling to amid growing unrest. Fact 49. Disaster. At Hetzel, the first great test. The tranquility of the High Republic shattered the day the great hyperspace disaster struck. A massive transport vessel fragmented in hyperspace, and its debris scattered unpredictably across real space, emerging at impossible speeds. One of the first systems threatened was Hetzel, a peaceful world of orchards, healers, and quiet sunlight. As fiery fragments rained toward its surface, panic rippled through the population like a sudden storm. Jedi responded with breathtaking swiftness, guiding starships, redirecting debris, and calming terrified citizens with soft, steady words. Their presence was like lanterns glowing against an oncoming night. Lives were saved, chaos was tempered, and unity blossomed amid fear. And though the galaxy trembled, the Jedi's compassion illuminated a path through uncertainty, marking a turning point that would define the era. Fact 50. The High Republic falters, yet its light remains. In the wake of the disaster, the galaxy's golden age dimmed. The Nihil pressed their advantage, striking vulnerable systems and spreading dread wherever their chaotic paths led. Starlight Beacon, once a symbol of radiance, struggled beneath the strain of conflict and loss. The Republic questioned its own strength, and the Jedi faced trials that tested not only their abilities, but their faith in peace itself. Yet even in this faltering moment, light did not vanish. Jedi continued to travel the stars with quiet determination, offering protection and hope to every world that felt abandoned. Citizens shared resources, comforted one another, and rebuilt where destruction had touched their homes. The spirit of unity, though shaken, held fast. And in that resilience, the true heart of the High Republic continued to glow. Fact 51. The Senate grows heavy with politics. As centuries passed and the galaxy moved beyond the High Republic era, the Senate, once a vibrant symbol of cooperation, became increasingly entangled in political webs. Delegates arrived with agendas shaped by personal interests, planetary disputes, or the pressures of corporate influence. Debates grew longer, tempers shorter, and decisions slower. The once harmonious chambers echoed with tension like quiet thunder rolling beneath polished floors. The Jedi, though still trusted, sensed a shift in the Republic's spirit. Missions became more complex, diplomacy more fragile. Some masters worried that the Senate's growing instability signaled deeper imbalances within the Force itself. Yet they continued to serve with patience, believing harmony could still be restored. And as the Senate struggled under its own weight, the galaxy edged closer to an era of shadows waiting just beyond the horizon. Fact 52. A mysterious Sith Lord manipulates events. Amid the growing unrest within the Senate, a shadow began to weave quietly through the Republic's foundation. Unseen and unsuspected, a Sith Lord moved with patient precision, shaping outcomes with the gentlest nudge of influence. Senators who once stood firm found themselves swayed by subtle whispers. Key decisions shifted in ways that felt natural, yet carried hints of unseen design. Across the galaxy, small disturbances rippled through the Force like distant tremors beneath a calm sea. The Jedi sensed something stirring, but the presence was so carefully masked that it remained little more than a troubling whisper at the edge of awareness. This Sith Lord sought not immediate victory, but gradual control, the slow dimming of a great light. And from beneath this shadow, the galaxy drifted toward a turning point no one yet saw coming. Fact 53. The Clone Army's sudden arrival. When tension finally gave way to open conflict, the Republic found itself in desperate need of a defense it had never fully prepared for. Then, as if summoned by the moment itself, a fully formed clone army emerged on the watery world of Kamino. Disciplined soldiers grown from the same template, each bred for loyalty, precision, and unwavering duty. To most senators, the army's arrival felt like a miracle born of necessity. To the Jedi, it was a source of concern and confusion, wrapped in mysteries they could not yet unravel. The clones marched in perfect rhythm, their armor gleaming like moonlit shells against the storm of war. They looked to the Jedi as their generals, forming bonds that felt both reassuring and bittersweet. And with their first deployment, the Clone Wars thundered into being, echoing across the stars like distant drums. Fact 54. The Jedi become generals, not monks. As the war spread from system to system, the Jedi were drawn into roles far from their intended path. No longer simply peacekeepers, they became commanders, leading battalions, directing fleets, and making decisions that carried the weight of entire worlds. Their meditations grew shorter, their days filled with strategy and survival rather than contemplation. Some Jedi adapted with solemn duty, others struggled with the moral strain of warfare. Their hearts, once anchored in serenity, now felt the turbulence of constant conflict. Yet still, they fought with compassion, guiding their clone companions with gentleness and respect, trying to shield the innocent wherever possible. But with each battle, the Order drifted further from its ancient roots. And in that drift, the hidden Sith Lord's plan unfolded quietly, step by careful step. Fact 55. Battles spread across 1,000 worlds. As the Clone Wars deepened, conflict blossomed across the galaxy like storms igniting beneath distant suns. Worlds that once knew only quiet mornings and peaceful nights suddenly found themselves caught in the wake of marching droids and Republic cruisers descending through their skies. Forests trembled beneath the echo of walkers, oceans churned beneath rising smoke, and cities illuminated the night with flashes of blue and red. Through it all, the Jedi moved with calm determination, their sabers glowing like gentle stars amid the chaos. They rescued trapped civilians, protected fleeing families, and tried to preserve life wherever destruction loomed. Yet each battle left another scar upon the galaxy, and the Force hummed with growing unease, as if exhaling through clenched breath. And from world to world, the storm showed no sign of fading. Fact 56. Padmé's pleas for peace fade into turmoil. Amid the growing tempest, Senator Padmé Amidala stood as one of the Republic's last and clearest voices of diplomacy. Her words flowed like gentle currents through the Senate chamber, urging negotiation, compassion, and restraint. She saw the cracks forming within the Republic's heart, the fear, the mistrust, the ambition, and she fought tirelessly to mend them. But as the war escalated, her influence dimmed beneath the weight of panic and political maneuvering. Senators turned their ears toward promises of safety rather than pleas for wisdom. Even allies grew distant, consumed by their world's own struggles. Yet Padmé continued speaking, her resolve unwavering even as hope thinned like fading starlight. And with each ignored warning, the galaxy drifted further from the peace she so tenderly sought to protect. Fact 57. Anakin walks a path of fear and love. Amid the galaxy's unraveling, Anakin Skywalker carried a quiet storm within him. A hero to many, he walked battlefields with unmatched skill, saving lives and inspiring hope wherever he went. But behind his bright courage lay fear. Fear of loss, of failure, of the shadows he could not escape. His love for Padmé was a warm light in the darkness, yet also a weight he struggled to balance against his Jedi teachings. Visions haunted his sleep. Doubts tugged at his heart. The war's strain blurred the lines between his duties and desires, leaving him feeling isolated even among friends. As the Force swirled unpredictably around him, his path narrowed into choices heavy with emotion. And in those choices, the future of the galaxy trembled quietly, like a candle flickering before a storm. Fact 58. Order 66 shatters the Jedi. In a single devastating moment, the galaxy shifted into darkness. With the quiet utterance of Order 66, clone battalions, once loyal companions and trusted brothers in arms, turned their weapons upon the Jedi without hesitation. Across starfields and distant fronts, serene temples and quiet forests, Jedi felt a tremor in the Force like a heart breaking in two. Battles became ambushes, meditations became final moments, and worlds that had once welcomed Jedi with open arms became silent under the weight of betrayal. The clones acted with precision, believing utterly that they were following lawful command. The Jedi fell not in glorious duels, but in heartbreak. And as their light dimmed across the stars, the galaxy slipped further into the shadow of a rising empire. Fact 59. The rise of Darth Vader. Amid the collapse of the Jedi Order, Anakin Skywalker succumbed to the storm that had long stirred inside him. Guided by fear, grief, and the manipulations of a hidden master, he embraced the identity of Darth Vader, cloaking himself in armor that echoed with mechanical breath. The man who once symbolized hope became an instrument of fear, his blue blade replaced by a crimson torch in the darkness. Worlds that had celebrated his heroism now trembled at his approach. Yet beneath the mask, a flicker of Anakin remained, a quiet ember buried beneath layers of anger and obedience. The force around him rippled with conflict, as though mourning the light it once nurtured. And through Vader's fall, the galaxy entered an age defined by both tragedy and the lingering possibility of redemption. Fact 60. The Republic dies. An empire is born, with the Jedi scattered or gone, and the Senate manipulated into accepting sweeping changes. The Republic's long era quietly ended. Before the shocked gaze of senators, Chancellor Palpatine transformed the Republic into the Galactic Empire, promising security, unity, and order. Applause filled the chamber, masking the sorrow of those who sensed the truth behind the triumph. Across the galaxy, banners changed overnight. Star destroyers patrolled hyperspace lanes with new authority. Worlds that once felt free now felt watched, measured, and restrained beneath the weight of an iron hand. The shift was subtle yet absolute, a single breath between democracy and tyranny. And as the empire rose beneath cold starlight, the quiet seeds of rebellion began to take root in hidden corners. Fact 61. The Emperor's shadow falls over. All with the empire firmly established, Emperor Palpatine extended his influence across the galaxy like a long, cold eclipse. Systems that once governed themselves found their freedoms dimming under strict new laws, enforced by stormtroopers whose white armor gleamed like icy masks beneath harsh lights. The Emperor rarely appeared in public. His presence was felt instead through fear, propaganda, and the silent authority of his decrees. Worlds that had thrived under the Republic learned to whisper rather than speak freely. The Force itself seemed to grow quieter, as though holding its breath in the dark. Yet beneath that heavy shadow, small sparks of hope still flickered, embers waiting patiently for a chance to ignite. And in that strained stillness, the first murmurs of rebellion stirred like quiet winds in forgotten halls. Fact 62. Star destroyers dominating the lanes. As the Empire expanded, mighty star destroyers patrolled hyperspace lanes with relentless precision. Their triangular silhouettes drifted through starlight like vast, silent predators. Entire worlds could see them pass overhead, engines glowing, hulls shimmering with the reflection of distant suns. To some, they symbolized order. To many, they represented oppression wrapped in steel. Within their cavernous interiors, thousands of crew members moved with rigid discipline. Officers studied star charts, pilots monitored patrols, and troopers trained for missions designed to maintain Imperial control. The hum of the engines echoed like a mechanical heartbeat, steady and unyielding. Even from afar, their looming presence reminded travelers that freedom had narrowed. And with each star destroyer launched into the void, the Empire's grip tightened a little more on the galaxy. Fact 63. The Death Star's terrifying promise. Deep within the Empire's secretive machinery, a project of unimaginable scale began to take shape. The Death Star, AEC moon-sized weapon capable of wiping entire worlds from existence. Its construction was hidden behind layers of deception, fear, and forced labor. Engineers worked in silence, guarded by the cold gaze of Imperial officers, aware that failure could mean disappearance into the shadows of secrecy. To the Emperor, the Death Star was the ultimate symbol of domination, a single stroke of fear powerful enough to keep the entire galaxy in line. When its power was finally demonstrated, billions felt the tremor across the Force, like a cry extinguished before it could be spoken. The promise of destruction hung heavily over all who learned of it. And from that fear, rebellion quietly began to shape its resolve. Fact 64. Survivor Jedi. Hide like embers in the wind. After Order 66, a handful of Jedi managed to escape the sweeping destruction that consumed their order. These survivors scattered across the galaxy, living in secrecy like fading embers carried on quiet winds. Some hid among remote farming communities, tending fields beneath alien suns. Others retreated into deep wildernesses, where their only companion was the whisper of the Force guiding them towards stillness. To protect the galaxy and themselves, they extinguished their sabers, buried their robes, and learned to move through life unnoticed. Yet even in hiding, the Force flowed through them gently, like a soft current beneath calm water. They carried memories of what had been lost, but also a small hope that someday the light might rise again. And from those hidden corners, the seeds of future change waited for their moment to awaken. Fact 65. The rebellion begins with quiet voices. Though the Empire ruled with an iron fist, resistance did not erupt overnight. It began with whispers, quiet conversations held in dimly lit rooms, or coded messages passed between trusted friends. Senators who still believed in democracy, families harmed by imperial cruelty, and captains unwilling to bow to tyranny all began to weave together a fragile network of hope. These early rebels had no armies, no fleets, only conviction. They sheltered the vulnerable, sabotaged oppressive operations, and spread truth where lies held sway. Each small act felt like a lantern lit in a dark corridor. And slowly, disparate sparks connected across worlds, a growing constellation of defiance. From these quiet beginnings, a movement took shape, breathing life into the dream that freedom might yet return. Fact 66. Leia Organa's secret missions. Among the earliest leaders of the rebellion was Leia Organa, a princess whose courage shone brighter than any star. Though young, she carried herself with an unwavering calm, speaking for justice even when surrounded by danger. Under the guise of diplomatic missions, she traveled across the galaxy, gathering allies, information, and hope for the rebellion's fragile cause. Her footsteps echoed through Senate corridors and rebel hideouts alike. Her presence, a reminder that bravery could be gentle and leadership could be rooted in compassion. She worked tirelessly, sending transmissions at midnight, negotiating by dawn, and never retreating from her purpose. To many, she became a symbol of resilience, proof that one voice could shift the trajectory of an empire. And through Leia's quiet strength, the rebellion's heartbeat grew steadier. Fact 67. Luke Skywalker's farm boy destiny. On the quiet desert world of Tatooine, under the watchful gaze of twin suns, a young farm boy named Luke Skywalker gazed up at the sky and dreamed of something more. His days were filled with routine, moisture evaporators, worn droids, and the soft rustle of sandy winds. Yet deep within him, the Force stirred like a sleeping star waiting to ignite. He felt it as restlessness, as longing, as the sense that his path reached far beyond the dunes. When destiny finally called, it arrived not with fanfare, but with old droids, a hidden message, and a meeting with an aging Jedi in exile. Luke's simple life began to unfold into legend, step by gentle step. And from that lonely homestead, a new hope quietly rose for the entire galaxy. Fact 68. The Battle of Yavin turns the tide. The rebellion's struggle reached a defining moment above the jungle moon of Yavin 4, where a small band of starfighters faced the overwhelming might of the Death Star. The night before the battle, pilots sat in quiet reflection, the soft glow of briefing screens illuminating their thoughtful faces. They knew the odds. They flew anyway. Among them was Luke, still new to the rebellion, guided as much by intuition as training. In the silence of the trench run, as alarms blared and ships fell away, Luke let go of fear and trusted the calm voice of the force within him. One clear, centered shot changed everything. The Death Star erupted in a bloom of light, and the galaxy felt a breath of hope rush back into its lungs. And from that single victory, the rebellion's fragile flame flared brighter. Fact 69. The Empire tightens its grip. Though the Death Star's destruction was a devastating blow, the Empire did not crumble overnight. Instead, it responded with renewed severity. Imperial patrols increased. Arrests grew more frequent. Whispers of rebellion were hunted with sharper focus. On countless worlds, citizens felt the pressure of unseen hands closing in, like a chill tightening around the spine of the galaxy. Yet the harder the Empire squeezed, the more clearly its true nature revealed itself. Neutral systems began to question their silence. Smugglers, senators, and soldiers found themselves choosing sides in a struggle that now felt impossible to ignore. The force rippled with a sense of gathering momentum, as though history itself were leaning toward change. And in that growing tension, the stage was set for the fall of a tyrant beneath the forest moon of Endor. Fact 70. The Battle of Endor and the Fall of a Tyrant Deep. Within the lush forests of Endor, an unlikely alliance of rebels, scouts, and small but courageous Ewoks prepared for a battle that would change galactic history. As the Death Star loomed overhead, unfinished yet deadly, the air hummed with the quiet tension of destiny unfolding. Rebel starfighters danced through the void, their engines glowing like fireflies against the vast night, while on the forest floor, determination pulsed through every whispered plan. In the Emperor's throne room, light and shadow clashed in silence, culminating in Darth Vader's final, redemptive choice. With the Emperor's fall, the galaxy seemed to exhale, a long, weary breath released after years of fear. And from Endor's bright embers, hope blossomed once more across the stars. Fact 71. The New Republic rises with cautious optimism. In the years following the Empire's collapse, a new government emerged from the scattered ashes, the New Republic. Built on ideals reminiscent of the old democracy, its leaders sought fairness, balance, and transparency, hoping to heal a galaxy fractured by decades of oppression. Senators gathered once more in circular chambers, speaking with renewed purpose, voices carrying the gentle tremor of cautious optimism. Worlds liberated from imperial rule celebrated with music and lanterns, children waving flags beneath open skies that no longer felt watched. But rebuilding required patience. Trust had to be earned, systems reconnected, and fear slowly soothed away like ripples calming after a storm. Still, the New Republic moved forward, guided by a belief that harmony could return. And under its quiet rise, the galaxy began to dream again. Fact 72. Imperial remnants drift into the unknown. Though the Empire had fallen, its remnants did not vanish. Scattered fleets, abandoned outposts, and loyalist commanders retreated into remote corners of the galaxy. In uncharted space, they regrouped like fragments of a broken mirror, each shard reflecting ambition, bitterness, or lingering devotion. These remnants drifted silently through starlit voids, plotting survival in a galaxy eager to move on. Some simply hid, clinging to structure out of fear of change. Others rebuilt in secret, whispering promises of renewed strength. Their movements were like shadows, sliding along the edges of hyperspace, too faint to grasp but impossible to ignore. The New Republic sensed their presence, an unease beneath the surface of peace. And from those distant silent corners, a new threat quietly gathered its breath. Fact 73. Luke begins a new Jedi school. In the gentle years following the Empire's fall, Luke Skywalker dedicated himself to restoring what had been lost. Guided by the wisdom of old masters and the quiet intuition of his own heart, he sought out ancient texts, forgotten temples, and soft whispers of the Force carried on distant winds. Eventually, he founded a new Jedi Academy, a place of learning bathed in sunlight, where young students trained beneath the serenity of open skies. Luke taught not with rigid doctrine, but with compassion, encouraging each learner to understand the Force in their own stillness. There were moments of laughter, meditation, and promise, echoes of a brighter future. And in that hopeful academy, the first sparks of a renewed Jedi Order began to glow once more. Fact 74. Ben Solo and the Weight of Legacy. Among Luke's students was Ben Solo, a boy born from a lineage that carried both immense light and profound shadow. As the son of Leia Organa and Han Solo, he inherited bravery, compassion, and curiosity, but also the stirrings of conflict that echoed across generations. The Force within him was powerful, vibrant, and turbulent, like a star still deciding what shape to take. Ben struggled to balance expectations placed upon him, the hopes of his family, the responsibility of his heritage, and the quiet whisper of doubt he could never completely silence. Luke sensed the storm within his nephew, yet even he could not see how deeply those currents ran. And within Ben's restless heart, a fragile destiny trembled beneath the weight of ancient history. Fact 75. Snoke's whisper in the shadows. As Ben Solo wrestled with his inner turmoil, a presence waited patiently in the darkness. Snoke, a figure draped in mystery, influence, and subtle poison. His voice reached Ben like a cold breeze slipping beneath a closed door, offering understanding, validation, and a sense of belonging that felt comforting yet dangerous. Snoke's guidance came wrapped in sympathy, but beneath every gentle word lay manipulation and intent. Through visions and whispers, he stoked Ben's fears, amplifying his doubts until they echoed louder than the teachings of the Jedi. The shadows around Ben deepened, stretching toward choices he was not yet ready to see clearly. And in that quiet corruption, the future of the galaxy began shifting once more toward looming darkness. Fact 76. The First Order emerges from the dark. From the forgotten corners of the galaxy, where Imperial remnants had hidden for years, a new power slowly took shape. It called itself the First Order, a militaristic force forged from old loyalties, lingering bitterness, and the dream of restoring the Empire's rigid control. Their starships gleamed with cold precision. Their ranks marched in strict formation, and their banners rippled red against the void like echoes of a long-extinguished flame. To the galaxy at large, the First Order's rise was subtle at first, a rumor, a whisper, a shadow moving through uncharted space. But those who paid attention sensed something unsettling in their movements, the way their fleets appeared suddenly and vanished just as quickly. And from this growing storm, a new era of conflict began quietly stirring to life. Fact 77. The Star Killer awakens to devour. Stars, hidden in the vast, icy silence of a distant world, the First Order constructed a weapon unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Starkiller Base. Carved into the planet's frozen crust, its colossal machinery burrowed deep into the core, drawing in the energy of entire stars. When activated, it unleashed beams of fiery destruction that streaked across hyperspace like burning comets, capable of erasing entire systems in moments. Worlds that witnessed its terrible power felt dread ripple through their populations. A cold, hollow fear that reached far beyond politics or territory. Even the Force seemed to shudder as lives vanished in an instant. Yet amidst this darkness, the Resistance held fast, believing that hope, though fragile, was still stronger than terror. And from the ashes of Starkiller's first strike, a renewed fire of defiance began to glow. Fact 78. Rey's journey, from scavenger to seeker. On the windswept sands of Jakku, a lone scavenger named Rey lived quietly among the ruins of fallen ships, her days filled with dust, solitude, and the rusted skeletons of forgotten battles. She had no title, no legacy, no guidance, only a deep, unspoken longing for belonging. Yet the Force watched her with patient interest, moving through her life like a gentle breeze that carried distant promise. When fate drew her into the struggle between light and shadow, Rey discovered instincts she could not explain, a natural grace with the Force, an inner strength that felt ancient, and a connection to destiny that unfolded slowly like dawn. Her journey became one of self-discovery, healing, and awakening. And through her first steps, the galaxy sensed a new light, rising to face the coming darkness. Fact 79. The Resistance stands against the storm. As the First Order's shadow spread across the stars, a new alliance rose to meet it. The Resistance, formed by those who sensed the danger before others. It carried the spirit of the old rebellion, small in number, but vast in courage. Their bases were hidden in forests, caves, and quiet corners of the galaxy, where pilots trained beneath dim lights and strategists spoke in hushed, determined tones. Led by General Leia Organa, the Resistance fought not for conquest, but for the fragile promise of freedom. Their starfighters were weathered, their supplies thin, yet their resolve shone bright against the darkening sky. Every mission, every sacrifice, added a new spark to the flame of hope they carried so carefully. And from their perseverance, the galaxy found a reason to believe once more. Fact 80. The Last Jedi's Lonely Path. In the midst of rising conflict, Luke Skywalker retreated to the remote island world of Ahch-To, burdened by regret and the weight of past failures. Surrounded by ancient stone huts, whispering winds, and the gentle crash of ocean waves, he sought a solitude that felt almost sacred. Here, Luke confronted not enemies, but himself, his fears, his mistakes, and the lingering sorrow of losing his nephew to darkness. His days became cycles of meditation and contemplation, connecting to the Force not through heroism, but through reflection. Though the galaxy cried out for help, Luke felt paralyzed by the past, unsure if he still deserved to shape the future. And yet, in this quiet exile, the seeds of wisdom began to stir, waiting for a spark to draw him back into the flow of destiny. Fact 81. The Rise of Skywalker stirs ancient powers. As the conflict between darkness and light reached its crescendo, Rey continued her search for identity and purpose. Guided by long-forgotten texts and the echoes of Jedi past, she began to touch powers as ancient as the galaxy itself. The Force responded to her with growing intensity. Visions flickered in her dreams. Voices from across time whispered through her thoughts, and storms of energy rose at her fingertips like restless tides. Meanwhile, Kylo Ren, torn between legacy and longing, felt his own power spiraling deeper into shadow, yet unable to silence the fragile ember of light within him. Their destinies intertwined with a pull as ancient as the Force, drawing both toward revelations that would reshape the fate of all. And in that rising storm, the final struggle for balance quietly awoke. Fact 82. Palpatine's final shadow. Just when the galaxy hoped the darkness had faded, an ancient and chilling whisper returned. Emperor Palpatine, surviving through secrets older than the Republic itself. Hidden away on the storm-racked world of Exegol, he lingered like a phantom clinging to the edges of life, surrounded by chanting followers and machines that hummed with eerie purpose. His presence in the Force felt like a cold fog settling over the galaxy, distant yet unmistakable. From this hidden throne, he watched events unfold with quiet malice, manipulating destinies with the same careful precision he once used to topple the Republic. His reach stretched through shadows, touching the minds of the vulnerable, shaping events with a hand unseen. And as his final plan took form, the galaxy found itself drifting once more toward an ancient, familiar darkness. Fact 83. A galaxy unites one last time. When the truth of the Emperor's return emerged, fear swept across countless worlds like a sudden chill. Yet something remarkable happened in its wake. Systems long divided, cultures once distant, and fleets scattered across the stars began to unite. Pilots from forgotten corners, warriors from humble settlements, and ships patched together from hope rather than wealth joined forces in a final stand. In the vastness above Exegol, their combined presence formed a constellation of courage, thousands of vessels glittering like a star field born of determination. The sheer unity of so many hearts and histories reminded the galaxy that darkness could be challenged not by one hero alone, but by the collective resolve of the many. And in that luminous gathering, the spirit of the old rebellion shone brighter than ever before. Fact 84. Ben Solo's redemption in the light. Amid the chaos of the final battle, Ben Solo faced the truth of his fractured life. The rage that had once fueled him began to quiet, replaced by fragile clarity and a longing for the person he might have been. Guided by memory, love, and the gentle echo of his parents' compassion, Ben cast aside the mask of Kylo Ren and embraced the light he had buried for so long. His journey toward redemption was not loud or triumphant. It was soft, painful, and profoundly human. With every step he took to aid Rey, the Force around him seemed to warm, as if welcoming him home after a long winter. His final act was one of pure selflessness, a gift of life offered without hesitation. And in that gentle sacrifice, the Skywalker legacy found its final note of grace. Fact 85. The Jedi reborn in quiet resolve. After the final echoes of battle faded, the legacy of the Jedi did not end. It transformed. Rey, carrying the memories of countless generations within her heart, stepped into the role of guardian not through lineage, but through choice. She listened to the Force with a reverence shaped by hardship, compassion, and discovery. On distant sands beneath a golden sky, she ignited her renewed saber, its warm yellow glow shining like dawn after a long night. The Jedi were no longer an institution bound by rigid tradition, but a promise, a quiet vow to protect balance, nurture peace, and honor the bond between all living things. In Ray's gentle steps, the galaxy sensed the beginning of something tender and new. And from that soft rebirth, the future opened like a calm horizon waiting for first light. Fact 86. Jedi legends spread across new worlds. In the years after the Skywalker saga, stories of Jedi, old and new, drifted across the galaxy like traveling constellations. Children on faraway planets whispered tales of glowing sabers cutting through darkness, of guardians who moved with serenity and spoke with kindness. Farmers in remote villages told stories at twilight about wanderers touched by the Force, while scholars traced ancient symbols carved into forgotten ruins. Some worlds claimed to have seen Jedi meditating on mountaintops. Others spoke of mysterious figures who arrived just in time to help during storms or conflicts. Whether fact or myth, these legends brought comfort, weaving hope into everyday life. The Force, once shrouded in fear and secrecy, became again a source of wonder. And with every retelling, the galaxy remembered that light often begins as a simple story shared in the dark. Fact 87. The galaxy heals from century-long wounds. With the war behind it, the galaxy settled into a long process of healing, a quiet, gentle restoration that touched every world in its own way. Once broken cities were rebuilt stone by stone, their new foundations laid with care rather than haste. Survivors found solace in their communities, gathering to share meals, memories, and the relief of finally breathing freely. The scars of battle lingered, but they softened with time, replaced by gardens planted where craters had been, and music played where alarms once rang out. Leaders learned to listen again. Neighbors learned to trust again. In this era of recovery, the Force felt warm once more, a steady heartbeat that reassured the galaxy it was safe to dream. And from that collective healing, hope took deeper root than ever before. Fact 88. Remnants of the First Order fade into myth. After their final defeat, the remnants of the First Order scattered into the void. Without leadership or direction, former soldiers and officers drifted across the galaxy like fragments of a storm losing its strength. Some removed their armor and sought quiet lives in remote settlements, trying to forget the shadows they once served. Others hid among the stars, uncertain of who they were without commands to follow. With time, their presence thinned, becoming less a threat and more a whisper, a cautionary tale shared around campfires and in quiet political halls. The galaxy, at last free from the weight of domination, turned its focus toward rebuilding, leaving the memory of the First Order to fade like distant thunder. And as their legacy dissolved into stardust, a gentler age slowly settled into place. Fact 89. The unknown. Regions call to explorers. With peace restored, curiosity blossomed once again. Explorers, scientists, and dreamers gazed toward the unknown regions. Vast, uncharted expanses where gravity twisted strangely and starlight shimmered with mystery. These explorers boarded sleek ships equipped with new navigation technology, setting out on voyages that felt more like meditations than missions. They encountered drifting star nurseries, planets wrapped in silver fog, and ancient ruins older than recorded history. Some discovered new civilizations, peaceful and untouched by the wars that had consumed the central galaxy. Others returned with stories of the strange hum of the Force, lingering softly in places that felt sacred and wild. And from these journeys, the galaxy expanded not through conquest, but through wonder. guided by curiosity rather than fear. Fact 90. New Force traditions rise in distant sectors. Without the dominance of Jedi or Sith shaping every chapter of history, new interpretations of the Force began to bloom. On hidden islands, desert enclaves, and mountain monasteries, small groups cultivated their own gentle ways of listening to the cosmic energy that surrounded all life. Some practiced healing, placing hands upon wounded spirits as well as wounded bodies. Others studied the Force through music, movement, or ancient stories passed down like lullabies. These traditions did not seek power or influence. They existed quietly, honoring the Force in ways that felt natural to their cultures and worlds. Travelers who encountered them often left with a softened heart, moved by the quiet diversity of belief blossoming across the stars. And through these new voices, the Force revealed yet another facet of its endless, peaceful mystery. Fact 91. Scavengers unearth ancient Sith relics. As decades passed and peace settled across the stars, curious scavengers and historians began uncovering remnants of past ages, relics from ancient Sith temples buried beneath sand, ash, and forgotten worlds. These artifacts pulsed faintly with echoes of old power, their surfaces etched with runes that whispered of empires and conflicts long faded into myth. Some relics hummed with memories of the dark side, like distant storms trapped within crystal. Those who found them often felt a shiver, not of fear, but of reverence for the history they held. Scholars carefully contained the relics, studying them with respect and caution, ensuring their knowledge would serve understanding rather than danger. And as these fragments resurfaced, the galaxy remembered its past, not to revive it, but to learn from its shadows and its light. Fact 92. The next generation hears the Force. Whisper. In quiet corners of the galaxy, small farms, starship hangars, marketplaces filled with warm lanterns, children began showing subtle signs of sensitivity to the Force. A pebble lifted without touch, a healing moment that surpassed normal skill, a dream that felt too vivid, too real, too meaningful to dismiss. Their families watched with awe and gentle concern as these abilities unfolded. Some of these children sought guidance from wandering mentors. Others followed instinct alone, learning through meditation beneath alien skies. None were burdened by expectation. Their paths were open, shaped by curiosity and the calm flow of the Force. The galaxy embraced them as symbols of renewal, reminders that the Force was alive, patient, and always choosing new voices. And through these young hearts, the future of balance whispered itself into being. Fact 93. New challenges born of peace. Even in eras of tranquility, challenges arise, not from war, but from the slow work of rebuilding, reconnecting, and healing scars that span generations. Some planets struggled to restore fragile ecosystems damaged by long-past battles. Others navigated the complexities of diplomacy as worlds once divided learned to trust one another again. Peace brought opportunities, but also responsibilities that required patience and understanding. Communities debated how to honor history without repeating it, how to preserve culture without clinging to old wounds. Leaders sought guidance not through dominance, but through collaboration. In these calm struggles, the galaxy discovered that peace is not the absence of difficulty. It is the gentle, ongoing effort to live with harmony and empathy. And through those efforts, a deeper, quieter strength took root beneath the stars. Fact 94. Stories of Skywalkers become starry bedtime tales. As the years drifted onward, The great struggles of the Skywalker lineage transformed from history into something gentler. Stories shared beneath soft lamplight, whispered to children as they drifted toward sleep. Tales of Luke's bravery, Leia's compassion, and Anakin's redemption were woven into the cultural fabric of countless worlds. Some stories were exaggerated, others softened, but all carried a tender glow of hope. Parents spoke of blue lightsabers shining like fallen stars, of courage found in unlikely hearts, and of the truth that light can return even after long darkness. These stories traveled through time the way constellations travel across night skies, slow, steady, comforting in their familiarity. And in those bedtime tales, the Skywalkers lived on, not as legends of war, but as symbols of resilience and grace. Fact 95. The Force continues. Its endless cycle. Through every era, one truth remained constant. The Force moved in cycles, ebbing and flowing like tides across the shores of the galaxy. It rose in times of need, quieted in times of peace, and whispered to those willing to listen with open hearts. Some beings felt it through meditation, others through instinct, others still in moments of bravery or kindness they could not fully explain. The Force was not bound to Jedi or Sith, nor to temples or relics. It lived in every breath, every moment of compassion, every spark of curiosity. Even in the stillest places, a lone moonlit field, a silent starship drifting through space. It hummed softly, a reminder that the galaxy was connected in ways deeper than sight. And through that eternal rhythm, the future found its quiet guidance. Fact 96. The galaxy as a living story. Across 25,000 years of triumphs and failures, heroes and villains, rises and falls, the galaxy revealed itself as something more than a collection of events. It was a living story. Every world added a verse, every generation added a chapter, and every life, no matter how small, contributed a thread to the vast tapestry of time. Travelers felt this truth when they gazed into star-filled skies, sensing that they, too, were part of a tale far greater than themselves. Historians wrote of great battles, but poets spoke of deeper truths, that the galaxy grew, healed, and evolved like a breathing organism. It remembered, it forgot, it rediscovered. And through its endless shifts, the Force flowed gently, connecting past to present, sorrow to joy, light to shadow. And somewhere within that living story, the next chapter waited quietly to begin. Fact 97. Light and dark as eternal companions. Throughout all eras of galactic history, the dance between light and dark has remained constant, not as enemies locked in hatred, but as two currents in the vast ocean of the Force. The Jedi learned to embrace serenity, while the Sith sought power through passion. Yet both paths, in their own way, revealed truths about the hearts of living beings. Light brought clarity, compassion, and healing. Darkness exposed fear, longing, and the desire for control. Together, they shaped the choices of heroes and villains alike, guiding destinies with gentle or turbulent hands. Some eras leaned toward harmony, others toward conflict, yet the Force always sought balance between the two. And in this eternal partnership, the galaxy found its rhythm, its lessons, and its quiet reminder that balance is never a destination, only a journey. Fact 98. The rise and fall of empires as cosmic breaths. Across 25,000 years, empires rose like towering waves before receding back into the sea of time. The Republic, the Sith Empire, the Galactic Empire, the First Order, each believed itself unshakable. Yet history proved otherwise. No reign, no matter how powerful, could escape the gentle truth woven through the Force. All things change. To historians, these cycles resembled breaths, the galaxy inhaling during times of unity, exhaling during periods of turmoil. Each collapse made room for renewal. Each rebirth carried fragments of what came before. Though these transitions brought sorrow and uncertainty, they also carried hope, reminding beings across the stars that no shadow lasts forever. And so, with every passing era, the galaxy continued this cosmic breathing, steady and patient as the tide of eternity. Fact 99. The Force as the quiet thread through all history. Behind every hero's triumph and every villain's fall, behind every war, every peace treaty, every forgotten myth and rediscovered truth, ran a single, unbroken thread, the Force. It moved silently through every era, connecting worlds separated by oceans of stars, guiding choices both great and small. Some felt it as a gentle nudge, others as a powerful calling, and some as a whisper that shaped their destiny without them ever knowing its name. The Force tied together the first Jedi on Tython, the ancient Sith on Korriban, the Jedi of the High Republic, the Skywalkers, the Resistance, and children not yet born. It wove their stories into a tapestry that shimmered with meaning, growth, and endless possibility. And through that luminous thread, the galaxy found its heart, steady, patient, and forever listening. Fact 100. The timeline continues. Your dream carries it forward. And now, at the end of this long and starlit journey, we return to the quiet truth that has echoed through every age. The galaxy's story is never finished. Long after empires fall and heroes fade into legend, new voices rise to shape the next chapter. Somewhere, on a distant world beneath unfamiliar skies, a child looks up at the stars and feels the Force humming softly through their heartbeat. Their path is unwritten, their choices unmade, their destiny a gentle horizon waiting to be explored. The timeline stretches endlessly, a river flowing beyond memory. And tonight, as you drift toward sleep, your dreams become part of that river, another quiet thread woven into the tapestry of the Force. And from that stillness, stories yet untold begin to glow. And as our journey through the galaxy comes to rest, may the Force bring balance to your mind and quiet peace to your dreams tonight. You've traveled across millennia, from the dawn of the first civilizations to the rise and fall of empires to the quiet rebirth of hope. Now, all that's left is stillness, a calm drift through starlight, where the galaxy hums softly like a lullaby. If these stories helped you find rest among the stars, remember to like, subscribe, and share which era you'd love to fall asleep to next. Your voice helps guide the next sleepy voyage. And when you're ready to keep dreaming, just tap the end screen to wander into another peaceful corner of the galaxy far, far away. A quiet night beneath the twin suns. Rest well, traveler. Sleep deeply. And may the Force be with you, always.